welcome. This whole programming is about innovation, and it's an opportunity for me to talk to successful entrepreneurs so that those who are coming behind you can learn from what you did successfully and perhaps avoid pitfalls. Because that's what we're trying to do with each other, is make sure that the next generation has a great kickoff. You've been wildly successful here, so let's learn a little bit about what this is all and how it works. What is JetToken?
So we're a charter and membership program based in the Western U.S. We're taking delivery of 4 HondaJets later this year to sell membership on and to charter when they're not in use by members. We have an app in the iOS store now called JetToken, all one word, where you can charter an aircraft. You know, there's about 2,800 in the U.S., maybe 4,000 globally we can access for you. And there are new versions of that coming out later this year, one for iOS, another for Android, which will have some pretty neat new features. Beyond those two things, there's a third and really important part of what we do, which is integrating the blockchain into private aviation in kind of a no-hassle way that gives you some features and benefits that we think are pretty unique. So this actually, Kevin, was an Israeli startup and came out of an accelerator program in the city of Ashdod, which is just south of Tel Aviv. We're fortunate enough to attract George to the business, who is very modest, but he's built Part 135 operations, actually whole airlines as the lead, and has an enviable career. He's a big part of our story.
But I think, Kevin, one of the things that we're trying to do is, if you remember what it used to be like to book commercial travel, you know, you had to call up your travel agent, you told them where you wanted to fly and when, and your travel agent would get back to you in a day or two with some options. But you actually had no idea, were these good, bad, or indifferent. And then, you know, you had the Expedias of the world come along and really create transparency to the market. And to a certain extent, that's a little bit of what we're trying to do as well with the app that Mike mentioned.
Well, let's talk about the actual process. So if I'm in, let's say I'm in San Diego, I want to get to San Francisco and come back. What do I do?
Well, let me ask you first, what do you currently do if you're doing that?
Well, you know,
because a lot of people don't really know how to go about it, right? And so the first thing they would do is like do a Google search.
I would say to my, my team, look, I've got to get to San Francisco. I got to be there by 1 o'clock. I want to be back in LA or San Diego by 5. Give me my options. Do I take a limo? Am I going to charter something? Am I going to go commercial? Give me the best strategy for what I got to get done here, and make it cost efficient, because travel is a huge cost to what I do. I spend millions of dollars flying around the world every year.
Yeah, and what they would typically do, assuming for a moment you're not a program member or have a fraction.
Not anymore. I've been through everything you possibly know about jet ownership and programs and units and everything. I've tried everything.
Right. So what they would probably do is they would have a go-to charter broker that they would call up and say, listen, you know, this is Mr. O'Leary's schedule. What can you do? And then the broker would come back to them and say, okay, I can do ABC for them. Now, with the app, instead of them going to the broker, they would be able to, in the app, put in where and when that you want to fly. There would be a number of alternatives that would show up. They would click on one. It would then come to us, and we would then process that for them.
Does that give me the other options that are commercial? In other words, I don't use the Honda, or I do use the Honda, or I use the Honda for part of the trip. How is it figuring out the best option for me, the app?
Well, the app, at least, again, the HondaJets are primarily for our program members and owners. They are then offered for ad hoc charter. So they would appear in the app, and your PA would look at it, at what's being offered, and say, okay, well, the HondaJet's at X, the Global's at Y. It's just Mr. O'Leary flying. He doesn't need the Global. Let's book him on the HondaJet. It's half the price.
The app gives me all that optionality?
Yes.
At the moment, the app gives you the ability to search a bunch of choices and pick them, and the Honda is not integrated yet. The next version has instant booking. It's in development right now. What George is talking about, the business logic that lets you trade off. And then the version that comes much later this year actually integrates commercial, so that if you're flying from, let's say, London to, and you want to get to Palm Springs, I think is the example we give on the campaign page, you can take a heavy jet for about $110,000, or you can take a first class flight from London to New York, and then New York, let's say, to
So
LA.
all of my options and their costs are listed in the app?
It will be, yes, that's correct.
That's a great idea. That's a very good idea. Optionality is what business travelers want. There's no question about it.